Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Liquor Control Commission meeting for November 19th, 2018. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk Simpson, roll call.
Commissioner Lang?
Here.
Commissioner Papantos?
Present.
Commissioner Vito?
Here.
Commissioner Kruger?
Present.
Commissioner Vogel?
Here.
Commissioner Brady informed the board that he would not be here this evening, and Chairperson Horker.
Here, thank you. You have before you the minutes of the special meeting of November 5th, 2018. I need a motion for their approval.
So moved. Second.
Motion, Trustee Papantos. Second, Commissioner Kruger. Sorry. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Lang?
Abstain.
Commissioner Papantos?
Yes.
Commissioner Vito?
Yes.
Commissioner Kruger?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel?
Yes.
Chairperson Horker.
Yes. Clerk Simpson, citizens' concerns and comments.
Ms. Wilson? Members of the public may address the board with comments regarding only those items that are relevant to village business. No citizen shall speak for more than 5 minutes without consent of the board. Members of the general public who wish to address the board must sign the request to speak form prior to the commencement of the public meeting. Ms. Wilson.
Hi, at the last Liquor Commission meeting, or moments before the cameras start rolling, Police Chief Jamie Dunn, he reached out his arm and he said, "You better watch it because I don't like you." And so I'd like to ask Chief Dunn how your preference for me, or your liking me or doesn't liking me, impacts the way you do your job. And when you said you better watch it, I'd like to know what exactly does that mean?
And just as a reminder, Ms. Wilson, these are times for the citizens to express their concerns and comments. This is not a time for discussion or debate.
Jamie Dunn, you're the police chief here, and when you stretch out your arm in front of a room full of people in Village Hall moments before the camera starts rolling, and you say, "You better watch it, Ms. Wilson, because I don't like you,"
Ms. Wilson,
it sounds to me like I am talking, you are interrupting my time. This is my time.
That,
he doesn't have to answer me, but you are interrupting.
Well,
you're going against your own legal counsel, who has repeatedly told you never, ever, ever to interrupt someone at the mic. These are my 5 minutes and my opportunity to address my public officials.
But
you have a job that impacts people's liberties, and when you tell them you don't like them, that they better watch it, it sounds like a threat. So I want to be sure that I follow whatever rules make me preferable to your liking or not. So
Ms. Wilson,
that really concerned me.
Ms. Wilson, is it relevant to the Liquor Commission?
Did corrupt Conway that you promoted, did he not like
Ms. Wilson, this is the third time I'm going to be asking you.
Jose Sanchez? When he arrested and that young man spent 5 years in prison, was it because you didn't like him? You were the police chief, and then you decided to promote him.
Ms. Wilson,
from
this is your
sergeant
final
to commander.
chance to please come back to liquor issues
So is that
or
because
leave.
you didn't like him? Well, he confronted me with this moments before the camera started rolling during the Liquor Commission meeting.
Would you please escort Ms. Wilson out? Sir.
I don't see an escort. My 5 minutes aren't done.
Please,
this is very inappropriate. Nobody should be threatened. Nobody should ever have their police chief say, "I don't like you, you better watch it." So since that's a direct warning, I better watch it. I'd like to know what I need to watch.
Ms. Wilson, Liquor Commission, goodbye. Goodbye, Ms. Wilson. Anyone else?
no, that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Simpson.
New business?
New business.
Okay, 7A, consideration of a request for a Class H liquor license from AHTRST Concessions from the Westin Chicago North Shore, LLC. I forgot. Okay.
Mr. Svandulis.
Thank you. As the title indicates, this is a request for a Class H hotel liquor license. Essentially what is happening is the Westin Chicago North Shore Hotel at 601 North Milwaukee Avenue is in the process of being acquired. Essentially, this is a paper transfer for the responsible parties managing the hotel to be the ones listed on the liquor license. I believe the petitioners are here this evening and can answer any questions if the commission has any.
Questions from the commission?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion, Trustee Vogel.
There are conditions.
Oh.
If I may, just to
With
read
the
these.
conditions.
The conditions. First, submittal of a certificate of insurance indicating liquor liability insurance for the establishment that names the Village of Wheeling as an additional insured party. 2, submittal of a current lease for the premises. 3, payment of all associated fees. Satisfactory background check results for any applicable individuals. And finally, submission of proof of Bassett certification for all applicable employees. Now, Commissioner Vogel. And who was the second?
I second.
Commissioner Lang. Clerk Simpson, roll call.
Commissioner Lang,
Yes.
Commissioner Papantos,
Yes.
Commissioner Vito,
Yes.
Commissioner Kruger,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel,
Yes.
Chairperson Horker.
Yes, that concludes the Liquor Commission agenda. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Kruger, second Commissioner Vogel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Liquor Commission adjourned.
Wait, who said that?
Sorry?
My screen went blank.
Oh.
Who motioned it?
Motion Commissioner Kruger, second I gave to Commissioner Vogel. I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Village Board for November 19th, 2018. Clerk Simpson, roll call, please.
Commissioner Lang?
Here.
Commissioner Papantos?
Present.
Oh, I'm sorry. Trustee Vito?
Here.
Trustee Kruger?
Present.
Trustee Vogel?
Here.
Trustee Brady informed the board that he would not be here this evening, and President Horker.
Here. You have before you the minutes of the special meeting of November 3rd, 2018. I need a motion for their approval.
So moved.
Motion Trustee Vogel, second Trustee Kruger. Roll call, please.
Wait, say the motion again, because they're going, my thing is going really slow.
Vogel,
Vogel,
second to Kruger.
Kruger. Okay, Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. You also have before you the minutes for the regular meeting of November 5th. I need a motion for their approval.
So moved. Second.
Motion Trustee Kruger, second Trustee Papantos.
Flip it around.
Trustee Papantos, I'm going to do this.
Do it right.
It's not Trustee Lang?
Abstain.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes.
Okay.
Any changes to the agenda, Mr. Spondilis?
There are no changes this evening.
Proclamations. Clerk Simpson. Citizens' concerns and comments.
Members of the public may address the board with comments regarding only those items that are relevant to village business. No citizen shall speak for more than 5 minutes without consent of the board. Members of the general public who wish to address the board must sign the request to speak form prior to the commencement of the public meeting. Mr. Neff.
And just as a reminder to the citizens present, this is a time for the citizens to make comments and express their concerns, not for the board or the staff to engage in comment or debate. Hello, Mr. Neff.
Hello, President Horker. Good evening. My name's Steve Neff, Wheeling resident, I live on Wolf Road. And tonight my topic of conversation is a meeting that was scheduled on September 26th, an airport public meeting, and it's going to be at the Ramada Inn. And I think it's extremely important that the residents are aware of this, and we're disappointed that it was not in the Wheeling Circular, even though there was plenty of lead time if it was announced on the 26th. We've got a commissioner that's a trustee. It would seem like it would be easy to reach out to the village manager. I mean, every time there's a run the runway, we're getting plenty of exposure in the Wheeling Circular. So this is going to be held at the Ramada Inn, and at 5 o'clock, it's probably going to be a lot of traffic backed up. The public should know that there's ample parking behind the Ramada Inn. So if you pull around on the south side, you should be able to access the, ample parking and come in the back entrance of the hotel. And then also, you guys were talking about adding an advisory question back at the last meeting. I was wondering if you could comment on the status of that at some point. Well, it's hopeful it would show up on the agenda tonight. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neff.
Ms. Wilson?
Hi, I wanted to address something that came up at the, before I start, I want to say the lighting was really beautiful. It was a great turnout, and the kids all really had a great time, so that was a great event. The budget hearing, our finance director, Mr. Monteshane, gave a presentation from researcher guy at Berkeley, Tom Segors. He spent a great deal of time. He had a lot of slides, and he was talking about presenting to you that this man had a different theory that's contrary to the thought that's sweeping the nation right now about fully funding pensions. And he said that according to Segoros's research, that pensions did not need to be fully funded, based on a model that, you know, because they're not a private company, they're not going to go out of business. And so he was sharing that with you, and I thought, well, I'll go look at, you know, Mr. Segoros and his website, and he projected onto the screen this piggy bank thing, and it was showing how if you plugged in all the variables of interest that the investments would be making, that you could fund, you know, underfund it for many, many years and not have any financial problems. And it was, you know, it was interesting to me. At one point, Village Manager Spondilis said that he had run this, I don't know, it's like it's some sort of machine that calculates how much money would be in the fund going out. He said he put it out even 200 years if they underfunded it, if it would be, if they would still have enough money to pay it. And he said that the funding rate never went below 35%. And I was really concerned because in one of the slides that Mr. Monteshane put forth at the 2-hour, 32-minute, and 55-second part of that pension funding status meeting, the budget meeting on that Saturday morning, there's this graph that says pension funding status average of police and fire, and it was showing all the different towns. And the point was to compare where we're doing better at funding. But then down here, it said the city of Harvey was 34.5%. And that's the one city that the state of Illinois, the firefighters sued because it was underfunded. They actually weren't able to meet their obligations. So the comptroller seized their assets, seized their bank accounts to guarantee those employees their right to their pension. And the city of Harvey was no longer allowed to spend money how they felt according to their budget. The comptroller took control. It was a rare permission in the Constitution, and it's the first time it ever happened. So what concerned me is that Mr. Spondilis repeatedly was saying, oh, he ran this thing, this piggy bank calculator thing a dozen times, and it never went below 35%. Well, City of Harvey, who had the state takeover, only funded at 34.5%. So that really concerned me, and it seemed he was trying to be very persuasive to convince you that we don't need to fully fund our pensions. And even Papantos had said, well, you know, if no one's going to make it, none of the other municipalities are going to be able to make this 90% by 2040 according to this new law, what do you anticipate is going to happen? And he had said he anticipated, like what had happened with the city of Chicago, that they would give until 2055 to do something. So that really concerned me, that we're not going to take that law too seriously. I don't know. I don't think the kind of advice that Village Manager Spondilis was giving us was sound advice. That just frightens me. By the way, fire and police, they do not participate in Social Security. So if we run into trouble with that, it's not just the public employees that will have to be concerned. It's all of us, because the state would have the authority to come in and seize those assets. And I was very concerned that he was putting this through, that he even invested money in sending him to some conference to even listen to this. And what really bothered me is that Village Manager Spondilis is in IMRF, which is, they have different rules. They are state mandated. It has to be fully funded. So it bothered me.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
That his pension will be guaranteed, but he was
Find your
willing
seat, Ms.
to
Wilson.
persuade you to underfund fire and police.
Sit down, Ms.
I think it's a
Wilson.
bad idea.
Thank you. Okay. Staff reports. I'm sorry, is that it?
Yes, I'm sorry, that's it. I'm sorry.
Staff reports. Mr. Spondilis, please.
Thank you. In response to what you just heard, I suggest that everyone go and watch the meeting from Saturday, November 3rd. Everything you just heard is exactly the opposite of what was said during that meeting. In fact, the recommendation from staff was to ask the board to lower the investment returns from 7.5 to 7.25 for the exact purpose of making sure that we meet the 90% funded by 2040, which is the state mandate. Further, this board, at the suggestion of staff, has created a policy where surplus monies declared annually over the last several years have put millions of dollars of extra funding into the police and fire pension. To suggest otherwise is simply inaccurate, and I suggest that everyone watch that meeting from Saturday, November 3rd for the full and true story of what the purpose of the piggy bank was. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spondilis. Clerk Simpson, consent agenda. Anybody else? Sorry. Clerk Simpson.
Consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered after all other agenda items. 11A, resolution approving the purchase of a Dell server from Dell Incorporated in the amount of $13,195.35. 11B, resolution approving a second renewal contract with Advanced Tree Care for tree trimming, removal, and stump grinding in an amount not to exceed $97,500 in 2019. 11C, resolution approving a one-year renewal contract with the YMI Group for HVAC preventative maintenance and repair in an amount not to exceed $26,850 in 2019. That's it.
Thank you, Clerk Simpson. Any questions from the board? If there are no questions, I'd be looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Papantos.
Second.
Second, Trustee Kruger. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes, we have no old business, so we're going to jump into new business.
13A.
A.
Ordinance granting special use site plan approval for a car wash facility at 966 South Milwaukee Avenue, H20 Express Car Wash, docket number 2018-23.
Thank you, Clerk Simpson. Mr. Jennings, what do we have here?
Thank you, President Horker. The petitioner who's here, and I'll introduce them and have them come up in just a moment here. The petitioner is an experienced car wash developer paired with an operator. They are looking at the redevelopment of the former Gators property to utilize the property as a car wash. It'd be about a 5,000 square foot building. The traffic flow through the property would be from Milwaukee Avenue to the entrance of the tunnel, which would be at the west side of the building. They're proposing also to have covered vacuum area so you could clean out your car at the location. The Plan Commission did recommend approval. I have 5 conditions of approval from the Plan Commission recommendation. Reading through the conditions of approval suggested by the Plan Commission, I had a concern with one of the conditions. I'll just talk about it briefly. right after I read the 5 conditions from the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission recommendation had these conditions. Number 1, prior to permit issuance, a draft public access easement for the sidewalk shall be reviewed and approved by staff. Number 2, if a looped water main is proposed, then a draft plat of easement shall be provided prior to permit issuance. Number 3, the final configuration of the access to and from Milwaukee Avenue shall be subject to approval by IDOT, with the additional limitation the left out shall be prohibited. Number 4, the trash enclosure elevation labels shall be corrected at permit. And number 5, vegetative screening along the north property line should be planted at a minimum height of 10 feet. The condition of approval that I had a concern with was condition number 3 relative to the IDOT approval. IDOT is the permitting agency for this access drive. I had a concern that having the possibility of IDOT actually approving full access, left in, left out, et cetera, the petitioner would then need to come back to the Plan Commission and the board. There'd be 2 additional meetings in order to update the site plan to match what IDOT had approved. Since IDOT's the permitting agency, I thought that it made sense to allow IDOT to review and approve as they saw fit. The petitioner has a traffic engineer who's hired for the purpose of providing advice to them, and at their traffic engineer's advice, they do believe that IDOT is likely to approve the full access. So given that, my recommendation will be to modify that 3rd condition of approval to allow them the flexibility to develop it as IDOT approves it without having to return for additional approval from the village. The suggested language of that condition would be, again, condition number 3, the final configuration of the access to and from Milwaukee Avenue shall be subject to approval by IDOT, including improvements to the median to facilitate left turns into the site, and a physical restriction on turning movements, such as a full or partial pork chop, as opposed to signage alone, for movements not specifically allowed by IDOT. So in other words, if IDOT does complete its review of this proposed business and finds that left turns to and from the site are perfectly safe, the petitioner would be allowed to develop in that way. If IDOT does restrict the movements, they would have to install a pork chop matching with IDOT's restrictions. So with that, the petitioner is here to answer any questions that you have. The ordinance that you have in front of you is written exactly as the Plan Commission recommended it. I would just request at the end of the discussion, if you could provide an opinion, we could possibly, if it's the consensus of the board is to change the condition, we would take care of that. But what you have in front of you is written exactly as the Plan Commission recommended.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Trustee Kruger and then Trustee Lang.
Thank you, Mr.
Someone
President.
from the car wash, please introduce yourself.
Good evening to the board. My name is Alan Jacob. I'm the attorney for the applicant, Victor Tereshniak. And this property is 966 South Milwaukee Avenue. It is a special use application, and we were here at the staff meeting, at the Plan Commission meeting, and we concur with what Mr. Jennings said with regard to IDOT approval. And we do have concern with condition number 3. We would ask that the board take the IDOT's recommendation, whatever it may be, whether it's full access or right in, right out, and restricted no left turn. Whatever IDOT says, we would ask that this board modify that condition from the Planning Commission to reflect exactly what Mr. Jennings was saying. We have somebody here from KLOA who can address any questions that the board has as to the traffic conditions, and I can have them come up here.
Thank you. Trustee Kruger had a question, actually.
I do. Hi, Mr. Jacob.
Hi.
I just want to be clear. You are not asking for TIF relief for this project? Yes?
No, we're not.
You are not?
No.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Kruger. Trustee Lang, and next will be Trustee Papantos.
So how certain, fairly certain, that IDOT will approve that full right in, right out?
That KLOA can answer. I'm not sure. I can have them come up.
Evening, Louis Abuna with KLOA. We've had discussions with IDOT. We submitted our traffic study. At this point, their position, initial position has been to allow left turns in but no left turns out. So we're having additional discussions with them to investigate the potential of restricting the left turns out during, rush hour, but not all the time.
I know IDOT's fairly knowledgeable about the road system and all that, but it seems that there'd be a lot of U-turns made to get back to where you want to go. So
That's the point we're trying to make.
to them as well?
Well, yeah, especially, during off-peak hours and on Saturday when traffic on Milwaukee, is lighter, the opportunity to make a left out is much easier. We felt that it's not necessary to restrict it all the time. We agree with them that, like between 4 and 6 p.m.
Sure.
It's tough.
Everywhere.
But at 10 or 11 o'clock on Saturday when the car wash normally experiences its peak business, we felt that it's probably not a good idea to do that specifically. Otherwise, cars will either make U-turn or go around the block and create additional congestion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lang.
That's it.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. Trustee Papantos?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for coming to Wheeling. The property needs a facelift, and I think you are going to try doing that. But I did listen closely to the Plan Commission meeting, and neighbors had some concerns. Are you really going to address the concerns of the neighbors? I'm concerned.
I think we addressed all of the concerns of the neighbors. Some of the complaints or concerns that they had were noise, light, chemicals. All of those were addressed at the Plan Commission. The chemicals that are used, we also have somebody here that could speak to that. They're all biodegradable. The sound, we've had sound studies done. Decibels do not exceed what the village code requires. They're actually lower. The lighting, the candles, the candle watt, foot candles do not exceed the parking lot. We've also instilled into our plans enough coverage so that any light from headlights going towards any properties will be blocked by 8-foot trees that'll be planted along the property line.
And that was my question. There was some concern regarding the size of the trees that were planted along the fence line.
Yes.
That they were going to be 6-foot plantings, but it was an 8-foot fence, so the
Right.
trees really weren't going to do much good. What are your plans now?
Right, we're putting in 12-foot trees, and the initial
12 foot?
plans.
Okay, I
right.
just heard 8.
The initial plans were 8, and then they were asked to be 6.
They were
right?
asked, well, in the Plan Commission, hi, my name is Nick with Car Wash Pro Designers. So the initial request from the Plan Commission was that we, again, according to the code, required the tree planting to be below 6 feet. One of the Plan Commissioners is actually here that felt concerned, why are we planting 6-foot trees when we have an 8-foot fence? It doesn't make any sense. So he made a recommendation that we actually plant a 12-foot tree to exceed the 8-foot fence to create an additional screening wall above and beyond the height of the fence, and we agreed to that.
And so you are going to do
We're going to
that?
build a wall of them.
And you will listen to the neighbors if they have concerns?
Absolutely. I think we addressed everything. The biggest ones were chemicals, what chemicals are going back in. All of our products are biodegradable. In fact, one of the chemical chemists that are here at one point pitched us with the chemicals by literally drinking a cup of it. And we were convinced at that point that we're in good shape. And I asked him how many times does he do that? And he goes, I have these meetings often. So he doesn't glow in the dark yet, and he still has all his limbs. So I'm assuming that we're in good shape with that. Noise was another one. And, we have a very lengthy report. The client spent a lot of money on it, but getting it in layman's terms, what I understood it to be was the volume from the ambient noise from the current traffic, taking the airport out of the equation, just the traffic from the road itself cancels out any ambient noise that the building itself would let off. So you couldn't hear our building over the traffic unless we were open from 11 p.m. until 4 a.m., which our hours are going to be, we close at 9 and we open up at 6.
So 6 a.m. you open?
We open from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., Monday through Saturday, and Sundays from 7 to 6.
Okay, thank you. And you will be installing a sidewalk?
Yes, in front of the building we will have a sidewalk to continue River Mill Crossing sidewalk.
IDOT is known to be notoriously slow. How long do you plan to wait for their final recommendation before you start moving? Because you're going to have to either put the pork chop in or wait.
Well, our understanding is that we will continue forward with the permitting process. So we'll submit our, we'll go, if we get the plans approval to move forward, we'll start the construction set of drawings, hoping that time period will have more of an official answer from IDOT. But the client has agreed that if IDOT does restrict the access down to this 3-point turn, that he would be okay with that. And we agree that, people are going to find, a U-turn scenario here where they're not going to want to, they're going to try to find U-turns, which may make a larger hiccup in traffic. So we're shooting for full access too. But we're hoping that in this permitting process, we're able to resolve that.
So what do you think your time frame is for opening?
We were shooting for August, September.
Of 2019?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And just to address one more concern, I know you said you were at the Planning Commission. One of the main voices that was concerned was, I think she was a president for a condo association, and she did say on the record that she would work with our client, and our client is willing to work with them to beautify a fence that divides it, that's on the condo association property, and work together to be friendly and cordial with each other to make this project go forward. But she did add in her comments that if it's approved, she will cooperate with us, which is I think a given. Yeah.
It's in the comments. Trustee Vito?
Was the bike rack your guys' idea, or did staff recommend that?
Staff recommended.
Yeah, a bike rack to a car wash, guys? I mean, that's a little egregious. I mean, I would say take the bike rack away from the car wash, but other than that, it looks like a nice car wash.
Okay.
Sure.
But
I agree with you on the bike. Yes. Are there any other comments, questions from the board? If there aren't, I would look for a motion to approve.
So move.
Motion, Trustee Lang.
With the amended condition,
Right, thank you.
maybe take a consensus to determine whether or not there is a consensus for the amendment first.
Thank you, Mr. Ferrolo. In consideration of the revised amendment number 3, Trustee Kruger, add it.
Yes, I'm in favor of changing the language.
Thank you. Trustee Lang?
Agreed.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
In which case, may we take the liberty of amending the motion?
Motion to approve with the amended condition for condition number 3 as stated by Director Jennings.
So moved again.
Thank you, Trustee Lang.
Second.
Trustee Vogel?
Ready?
Ready to go.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Harker?
Yes. Congratulations. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Keep that one.
Never mind. Okay. B. 13B, ordinance granting special use. Granting special use site plan approval.
I'm sorry. So I was just corrected. The trees are 10 foot high above the fence line, not 12.
well, in that case,
Yeah,
I need to
8-foot fence.
Everybody get their coats back off.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Clerk Simpson.
13B, ordinance granting special use site plan approval for a ground transportation service located at 1600 South Wolf Road, Pace Suburban Bus, docket number 2018-27.
Mr. Jennings, what do we have?
Thank you. The petitioner, Pace Suburban Bus, had previously been in front of the board for a courtesy discussion of their proposed facility. This is the Northwest Suburban Garage Relocation Project. They had stated at that time that the intention was to relocate the Northwest Garage. They had been looking for several years for a site, and they found this particular building at 1600 South Wolf to be the ideal facility for their garage. The intention of this garage would be to relocate over the course of several years the bus fleet that's currently housed at the Displays facility. It's approximately 120 buses with a total capacity in the future of up to 150 buses. They would do maintenance in the facility. There'd also be office space dedicated for a print shop, the van pool administrative office area. They would have approximately 280 employees located at the facility. One of the items of discussion during the Plan Commission review was PACE's impact on the traffic of the area. PACE had agreed to work with the village on a plan to reconstruct the intersection and the streets directly adjacent to the facility. Their own traffic study had shown that they would have an impact. They would need to extend the left turn queue, for example, possibly change the radius of the curb. The discussion continued after the Plan Commission meeting as staff worked with PACE to try to come to a condition of approval that would more completely describe their position with respect to to those improvements. What you have in front of you is an ordinance that took the original intent of the Plan Commission recommendation and has been modified and updated now to reflect the ongoing discussion with PACE. So the Plan Commission recommendation, again, has been modified slightly in conjunction with the discussion with PACE. There are 5 conditions of approval. Number 1, the west exterior wall should be repaired to its original condition to the greatest extent possible following the removal of the building addition in that area. Number 2, prior to the issuance of a permit for the CNG fueling area, the landscape plan should be revised to specify the quantity and species of the new landscaping. Number 3, site geometric plan shall be adjusted to remove conflicts identified in the fire department review of the turning radius diagram provided on November 2nd. Number 4, the existing access drive, existing access drive to the subject site on Willow Road that is located 125 feet west of the Willow Road intersection shall be removed and the area be restored to any be restored prior to any transit vehicle operations from the subject site. Number 5 has been the one that has been reworded. Number 5, prior to building permit issuance, PACE and the Village of Wheeling shall enter into an agreement in a form accepted by both parties that establishes the village's responsibility for the design and installation of the following infrastructure improvements and establishes PACE's responsibility for the financial reimbursement for the infrastructure improvements, which are described as follows. A, the restriping of Old Willow Road to provide a turning lane within the center of Old Willow Road. B, reconstruction and resurfacing of Old Willow Road from Wolf Road west of the Metro tracks. C, village shall remove the existing east access drive to the subject site located 125 feet west of the Wolf Road, Willow Road intersection for that portion within the Old Willow Road right-of-way and restore the right-of-way. PACE should be responsible for the removal of the remainder of the existing access drive and restoration on the subject site. And D, the west half of Old Willow Road, Wolf Road intersection shall be widened to allow for increased vehicle turning radii, which may include, but not be limited to, the relocation of traffic signals, subject to obtaining all necessary approvals from IDOT. Just one other note, there was at the time of the development of the original building, there was a parking variation that had an associated covenant attached to it. PACE, through their title work, has requested that variation be voided. So there is a section of this ordinance that would take care of that. It's obsolete. It's no longer needed for the development that they're proposing. I believe there is somebody from PACE here who can answer questions if you have them.
I have Trustee Vito, followed by Trustee Lang. If someone from PACE would come up.
Yeah, my question is actually for the Deputy Fire Chief. A resident had reached out shortly before the meeting, had some concerns about potential fire hazards with so many natural gas vehicles on one area. I guess it's more combustible than diesel. I don't even know if that's true. But can you address any type of fire concerns with a facility like this and the equipment that's proposed to be there?
Well, compressed natural gas or liquid natural gas fueling operations in vehicles are highly regulated and inherently safe the way they're designed and engineered. And anything that's submitted has and will undergo a thorough review process. As far as any information for residents, you can go, there's fact sheets from the U.S. Department of Energy, and there's also a first responders guide that, like any vehicle out on the road you pass every day, whether it's electric, natural gas, combustible fuels like gasoline and diesel, there's safety issues with firefighters, but we train for it, and we are aware of it. And for instance, waste management off of Sumac, those are natural gas vehicles. And you also see some Ozinga vehicles. And anytime you pass a camper or RV or, you know, a lot of trucks out there, they are natural gas, whether you knew it or not, so.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Trustee Vito. Trustee Lang and then Trustee Kruger.
So we talked a lot about in the past about the impact on the roads. And I appreciate what you've done with Willow Road, but Willow is not a road mostly traveled by in that area. Wolf Road is. And so how does this impact Wolf Road presently and in the future? There's going to be a lot of traffic, a lot more traffic on Wolf. And I guess that's what I was hoping some of the relief would be in, as well as doing some work on Wolf Road, other than turn lanes and so on, but I mean Wolf Road in general and the general shape of Wolf Road.
Oh, definitely. We'll have Kevin Nelson from CMT kind of speak to the traffic impact study, which did concentrate on Wolf.
Kevin Nelson, Crawford Murphy and Tilley Engineers. We did the traffic study for PACE on this location. We looked certainly on the on-site improvements, looked particularly at the Willow Road, Wolf Road intersection with the traffic, took traffic counts and things like that. We extended that further to look at what's going on with Wolf Road, talked to IDOT, looked at some of the information that IDOT has out there, and the increase of traffic by PACE in this particular area is minimal, and it's off-peak. When I say minimal, it contributes less than 2% of the traffic that is on Wolf Road. To give you an example, there's roughly 13,000 vehicles a day traversing on the south of Palatine Road for Wolf Road. And the PACE traffic is contributing, less than 200 in a day, and in peak hours, it's even less than that. So I don't know if that exactly addresses the question.
That helps. And did you evaluate the condition of Wolf Road and what the life expectancy is currently?
We did not.
Okay. Do we know that at all?
We do not know what the life expectancy is at Wolf Road in that area. I know it's in a lot better shape than it is in like northern part of Wolf Road that is hopefully going to get reconstructed relatively soon. That part of Wolf Road that's near the facility is state of Illinois. It's not village. But I don't know. I couldn't tell you how long that road's is going to last until, say, reconstruction and or resurfacing. What I do know is that Willow Road, Old Willow Road, the village right away to the south of this facility isn't in bad shape.
That helps. Then, and you said traffic counts per day from PACE would be 200?
Roughly 200, and like I said, it contributes less than 2% of what the traffic is.
It doesn't, when you put the numbers that way, it doesn't seem as impactful, so. Okay, I appreciate your answers, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. Trustee Kruger, then Trustee Papantos.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had the pleasure of watching the last public hearing at the Plan Commission level, and as much as I'm grateful for all of the conditions that are in this approval, I'm particularly grateful for number 5 with the street repairs and intersection repairs. I also remember hearing testimony from PACE that you have a commitment to be a good neighbor to the residents and a business. The business that's across the street, I'm a former employee of, but they are a 115-year-old business that founded themselves here in Wheeling. And they have some truck traffic for their deliveries, for their manufacturing plant. And I'm wondering if you have been speaking with Crescent Cardboard about these improvements and how this will not impact their business negatively.
Mike Teeters with Pace. Our executive director did meet with Crescent Cardboard to the north. They did express some concerns about their truck traffic and access to and from their facility. We did identify as part of that exercise the fact that the intersection at Wolf and Willow does have existing deficiencies that currently does impact that situation. You know, a vehicle coming south on Wolf can't make a right onto Willow without encroaching all the way into the
Absolutely.
to the other lane. So that condition exists now. We recognize that, and we're committed to the improvements to widen that road, not just for our use, but for their benefit as well.
So they were receptive, I hope?
Well, I can't speak to what was exactly said between our executive director and them, but that's what the plan is. And I think it's a mutual benefit.
Absolutely. And like I said, they're a longtime resident and business owner and landowner in this town. And, you know, I'm really grateful that you are accommodating their needs as well as going to be a good neighbor to the residents in the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Kruger. Trustee Papantos?
Thank you. We're probably just going to keep talking about these roads till you're blue in the face. My concern is buses going southbound and or northbound on Wolf. Is there enough of a turn lane on Wolf for the buses to turn in? How many buses come back to the depot at the same time? Or is it so scattered throughout the day that it's one at a time? And will the buses be able to make that right-hand turn off of Wolf onto Old Willow? If southbound bus.
Yeah, again, that's the deficiency on that west side with those turning radiuses, which we're going to get widened.
So you are going to widen the Wolf, put a right-hand turn lane on Wolf?
That is a possibility to do a dedicated right-hand turn lane there. But the intersection will be widened to the left, both on the northwest corner and on the southwest corner, I would expect. By the time IDOT's done with it, both sides would be improved. And that would allow for that right-hand turn coming on southbound Wolf to go on to Willow.
You probably have a lot more pull with IDOT than anybody else does, to tell you the truth, so good luck. The 280 employees, basically how many per shift or per, and is that part of the count of the 200 a day impact on traffic, or are the employees coming in and out?
Yes, there's 100-ish buses, and so the other 100 is the employee part of that.
Okay. And do the employees work standard shifts, or what shifts do they work?
Well, there would be at least, you know, the main daily shift, but there would be at least one shift for the office personnel on a daily shift, but then the drivers and the bus operators would span longer than one shift, and then there'd be fueling at night. So there's a minimal staff that's on board there throughout the day and night to accomplish those other tasks.
When you first came before us, Mr. Ross, we talked, or when Mr. Ross came before us, we talked briefly about the fact that bus service in Wheeling is a little bit lacking at times. And since now that we have a terminal, are we going to see some little bit extra and maybe some trial routes coming up for us? We have a beautiful new town center coming up too.
I can't speak to what was, you know, discussed or planned for actual bus routes. We're always evaluating bus routes.
Just want you to keep us in mind.
Understood. I think, just to speak myself, but I think TJ was pointing towards something similar to dial-a-ride kind of service, so we can look into that further. So I think that's where he was headed in thought process as far as a traditional service versus what we've done similar. So we'd have to look a little bit further with the service end of operations, but I know that was something that he was definitely considering.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. No other questions? They would probably like a motion to approve.
Is this with the conditions as read by
Yes.
Director Jennings then?
Yes. I have Trustee Lang, second Trustee Vogel.
Roll call, Clerk Simpson.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Harker?
Yes. Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Clerk Simpson, item C.
Item C, resolution authorizing a request for a no-cash bid for parcels located at 221 South Wheeling Road, east of Wheeling Road, at Terminus of Catherine Court.
Mr. Jennings, what do we got?
Thank you. This is a somewhat unusual request. We haven't done very many. To my knowledge, we've only participated in the no cash bid program one other time. So just a brief description of what this is. Cook County provides municipalities each year with a list of the properties within that municipal boundary that are delinquent on their taxes. Properties that are delinquent for multiple years are eligible for a tax sale. The village and any other municipality has an opportunity to participate in that tax sale without bidding a dollar amount on the purchase of the tax deed, the purchase of the tax certificate. So a municipality can submit an application supported by some criteria for economic development reasons to go to the front of the line for a tax sale. So that is what we're suggesting here, is that this property, which is the former Evanger's dog food plant, located at the east end of the Catherine Court cul-de-sac. This property is eligible for the program. It's got multiple years of delinquent taxes. We estimate somewhere between $113,000 to $340,000 of delinquent taxes. The village, if this were to be approved, the village would prepare a bid package, a no-cash bid package for review by the county board. The deadline for that submittal is later this month. One of the application requirements is a resolution authorizing us to submit that. So that's what is in front of you tonight, is a resolution authorizing a request for a no-cash bid. So the program, if a municipality participates in the program, they submit this no-cash bid. There are a series of steps that are required. Notice to each lien holder, and notice to the property owner, of course, but notice to every entity who has a lien on the property. It takes about a year from start to finish to get through all of those steps. At the end of that process, the village would be given the tax certificate, and then we could complete the transaction. Again, it's no cost in terms of the acquisition and no cost in terms of the bid on the delinquent taxes. There are fees associated with this. There are filing fees, attorney's fees. There's the fees for the title work that has to be done. So it is not free, but it's a significant reduction from acquiring the property and paying the delinquent taxes. So with that, I can answer hopefully any question that you would have.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Trustee Lang, then Trustee Papantos.
So based on the nature of the business, we could pretty much be certain that there's contamination back there. And I saw in the report that we're on the hook for that. Are we on the hook for the contamination regardless? I mean, based on these folks pretty much abandoning
That's one way to look at it, that regardless of who were to redevelop the property, there's a high likelihood that the redevelopment would have a phase 1 and possibly a phase 2 environmental study done. I would guess that somebody who wanted to use the site for something other than parking, for example, would want to address any contamination that they find. I don't know, based on the configuration of this property, that it would have a likelihood of being redeveloped with something other than parking. Something to support an adjacent development seems to me to be the highest likelihood. So depending on what the ultimate use is, there is a possibility of remediation.
Okay. Other than that, I have no problem with the no cash bid. Good idea.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. Trustee Papantos?
Are the fees and any remediation and demolition that may or may not occur TIF-eligible expenses?
Yes, it's in a TIF district. The answer would be yes.
Thank you.
That's it? Yeah. Trustee Vogel?
No, that was my question also.
Oh. Any other questions? If there are no other questions.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion trustee Vogel, second trustee Papantos. Clerk Simpson, roll call, please.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Brings us to item D.
D. 13D, resolution of the corporate authorities to determine the amount of the tax levy for the 2018 tax year.
Mr. Monshane.
Thank you, President Horker. The item that's on the agenda tonight is a resolution that would determine the amount of the tax year 2008 property tax levy. This was something that we discussed with the village board at your budget workshop meeting on November 3rd, and staff recommended that the board increase the levy by $540,225 to offset the rising costs of operations and police and fire pension costs and debt service expenses as well. The resolution tonight simply determines the amount of the levy. The levy would not actually be approved by the board or voted on until the night of December 17th. So with that, if there are any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Questions? Left or right? No questions.
So moved.
Motion trustee Krueger.
Second.
Second trustee Vogel. Clerk Simpson, roll call, please.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Item E.
13E, resolution authorizing change order number 1 in an amount not to exceed $298,590 to the construction contract with Boulder Construction Company for South Wheeling Road storm sewer improvements.
Mr. Janik, what do we got?
Thank you. Public Works is requesting consideration by the board to approve this change order for $298,590. As you I'm sure are aware, we are involved in a complicated project down on South Wheeling Road. We're installing approximately 1,500 linear feet of storm sewer from 24 inches up to 66 inches in size. Currently, the project is about 85% complete. All the storm sewer is connected. What happened on this project was that we ran into very poor soil conditions on a substantial amount of the storm sewer that we installed in Wheeling Road. We also ran into contaminated soil, contaminated with arsenic in a certain section of the roadway. Taking into consideration all the undercuts and then additional materials we need to put back into the trench, as well as the hauling off of the material, as well as the including the contaminated material. Unfortunately, there was a change order of this magnitude that occurred, and I'm requesting your consideration and approval of it.
Questions from the board? Trustee Papantos?
More of a comment. I just want to clarify. This is the first of our projects from the stormwater sewer maintenance fee that we're all paying, correct?
Actually, it's the second project.
Second project?
There was one earlier this summer at the corner of Bridgeton and Wayne, which was another storm sewer. It was a smaller project, approximately $80,000. But this would be the second one.
And this is?
And it is funded by the stormwater monies. That's correct.
Thank you.
Trustee Vogel?
Do we do soil testing before we do this type of project or not?
We did. We did some soil testing in an area that we thought would be where the poor soils were. One reason we didn't expect poor soils in this area is that there were two other contractors, two other utilities that were doing work before we did. They didn't run into the same soil problems that we ran into, whether it be contaminated or poor soils under theirs. So we just didn't expect this. We have the requirement in our contract to check for contamination. over the past 4 or 5 years, and we haven't run into it. We didn't run into it on the entire length of Dundee Road here either. So it was unfortunately an unforeseeable situation. Even if we had known that the soils were poor where we found them, we would still have had to do this project and locate the pipe in this very same spot. But we did do some soil testing. Sometimes it's very hard to do a lot of soil borings because we're not sure where all the utilities are, and we don't want to bore holes in the right-of-way and then hit a utility when we don't know exactly where those utilities are. I'm not trying to make an excuse there, but it is sometimes very complicated with a lot of utilities in a small right-of-way area to do a lot of soil borings.
Yeah, what causes that type of contamination? Is it just, I mean...
It's actually, to my understanding, in a lot of places, it's naturally occurring.
Naturally?
We ran into that arsenic situation right here on Village Hall property. That was the property that was sold to the Park District. There was arsenic on that property, and we spent a lot of money transporting that soil off as well. And as far as we knew, there was nothing on that property that had been used that would have given off arsenic or any other contaminated material, but sometimes you do run into a naturally occurring contaminant that you just don't know is there.
Okay, thank you.
There are no other questions? Mr. Spondelis.
Thank you. Director Janik, just to make sure that everybody understands, am I correct that this is more about unstable soil than it is necessarily about the arsenic?
That's
the
correct.
arsenic portion is very expensive because you can't just dump it. You have to go through the whole process of the specialized dump for displacement of arsenic. But the issue really is loose soil when it comes to installing the pipe, replacing the roadway on top of the pipe. That's the bigger cost here.
That's exactly right. Of the 1,500 linear feet that we installed, I would suspect that we probably had to do a 2 to 3 foot undercut under approximately 800 linear feet of that pipe. And when you do have to do the undercut, then it does expand the trench itself. And so that we had to, as it mentions on here in the memorandum, we had to take out more sidewalk, for instance, that we thought we were going to have to, and some more pavement as well. So it is, the vast majority is due to the unstable soil that we ran into, not contaminated soil.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion, trustee Papantos.
Second?
Second, trustee Kruger. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. We have an item for discussion, Ms. Simpson.
13F, discussion regarding establishment of health permit fee.
Mr. Jennings.
Thank you. At the budget workshop held earlier in November, the staff described several possible new revenue sources. One of them was the health permit fee. The consensus of the board at that time was to complete some research and bring the results of that research back with a recommendation. And that is what you see in front of you tonight, is the result of our research and my recommendation relative to a health permit fee. The health inspection program, and when I say the health inspection program, I'm referring specifically to the food establishment inspection program. The Village of Wheeling has a large number of restaurants, and they require a significant number of inspections. In 2019, we are projected to complete an estimated 350 inspections at our restaurants, based on the 160 establishments that we are projecting to be open next year, and then breaking down the number of inspections for each one of those on a risk level basis. So a high risk establishment, one that does a lot of heating and cooling of food, for example. A high risk establishment would have 3 regular inspections per year, and a low risk establishment would have 1 inspection per year. So based on our breakdown of high, medium, and low risk, we are projecting 350 inspections. There are, from our research, there are 2 different ways municipalities handle this fee. There are those that charge it as a permit fee, a dedicated permit cost, and there are those that roll it into their business license on an annual basis. I'll discuss both of these, but the recommendation for us, I think, based on the way our code is structured, I think the permit fee makes the most sense. We would recommend doing it at the time of the annual business license renewal, but calling it a separate permit fee based on the risk level, I think makes the most sense. One thing that I wanted to point out before I get into too much more detail on it is that I believe this is a good time to do this. At this moment, we are on the verge of adopting a new food code. The state of Illinois has mandated that all municipalities adopt a new food code. The state is using the 2013 FDA food code almost in its entirety. They've cut a couple of sections. It'll be up to the Village of Wheeling and any other municipality to handle the sections that they cut from their adoption. But the state is mandating that effective January 1st, all municipalities will use the 2013 FDA food code. Bless you.
Thank you.
So with that new food code comes a new style of inspection. I believe that the time is right to adopt all of these things in conjunction with one another. So should the board approve this fee, you would see it added to the schedule of fees. You would see references when we adopt the new food code. You would see references in Title V, Health and Sanitation, to the fee structure. And due to the fact that we would have this new inspection style mandated to us, I think that it's an appropriate time to utilize a contract inspector to help oversee the implementation of the new style of inspection. The forms are different. The scoring that we currently utilize would be eliminated. The premise of the inspection itself is shifted away from how we would previously handle it. So our intention, should all these things be approved, our intention would be to consolidate, to compile a letter listing each one of these things and send it to every restaurant to notify them what the new food code means to them. And subject to approval of the fee, we would mention that as well if this fee were to be approved. So just a quick overview of what we looked at. We completed analysis of the fee structure in neighboring municipalities. The primary resource that we used was a survey that was done by Skokie. Skokie implemented a risk-based fee a few years ago, and in 2017, they did a survey of similarly structured fees in other municipalities to make sure that their fees were in line with what everybody else was charging. So we were provided the data that Skokie found in their survey, and the range for the risk-based fees was on the low end $435 per year for a high risk, all the way up to $1,370, so $1,370 per year for a high risk establishment. So the high risk, the theory behind that is the high risk requires 3 times as many inspections, and therefore they should have a higher fee than a low risk, which requires 1 inspection annually. So the range then, again, $435 to $1,370. We also looked at municipalities that absorb it into their business license fee structure. It's a little bit harder to put it into a neat table because they're all over the place. They have a combination of things that are related to how they license the businesses. So if you can imagine the size of the business and the risk structure being combined into one, it didn't really work out in the table. So the results of that were fairly similar to this. We found that the fee range is pretty similar to what you get when you do it as a risk-based dedicated permit fee. The recommendation that I have prepared in this memo is for a fee that's similar to the median fee, adjusted down. The 2 high, Evanston and Lake County, the 2 high ones were skewing the average up, so we used the median, which brought it down a little bit. Didn't remove them, but it brought the number down. I felt that it was skewed a little bit high because those 2 were significantly higher than the others. So the recommendation is for a $750 annual fee for high risk, a $470 annual fee for medium risk, and a $250 fee for low risk. In conjunction with the change, I was also recommending the reinspection fee be increased to $100 for reinspection, and that's charged after multiple reinspections. Once you have 2 or 3 visits, I think the 3rd visit is the one that requires the charge of the reinspection fee. With that, if all of these were to be approved, as I said, you would see additional legislation coming in front of you to update the sections of the municipal code that reference what our health code is, and we would include the fee structure in that if this were to be approved. And as I said, it would be added to the schedule of fees when Mr. Monchain does his annual update. So any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Trustee Papantos.
Thank you. I just want to clarify something. The new inspection guidelines are basically mandated by the state via the FDA.
The state, I'm not sure if I understand, but the state of Illinois has mandated that all municipalities will be using the FDA food code. Correct?
Okay. And are we offering any type of, besides the letter, training session to our businesses regarding this?
There are training materials out there. We are not conducting the training. So there's some online materials. We're going to provide a link to that. The letter that we use to notify all the restaurants of this does include a reference to different materials that are available to help them understand. The letter that we're sending has an overview of what the food, the major changes are, but then refers them to these resources that they can use to get a better understanding of it. And it's important to point out that our intention, if we're ultimately able to use a third-party contractor to handle these inspections, the intention would be for the first year, the entire first year of inspections, to really be an educational opportunity. During the inspection, the contract inspector would work with the restaurant to get them accustomed to the new inspection style. So there is some anticipation of a real hands-on inspection program, at least for the first year, to help everybody understand what this means for them.
To your knowledge, are these guidelines coming as a surprise to any of the restaurants? I mean, they should hopefully know something about this.
I would think that a lot of the chains would probably anticipate it. Some other towns have already adopted this. It's December almost, so some towns have adopted it earlier and they've probably received notice. The chains, I would guess, would know for that reason. Some of the local restaurants, this may be the first they will hear of it is the letter.
Okay. And when do they renew their licenses? What month?
We send out the renewal letters at the beginning of March. Most businesses pay in April, and then the renewal is done in May.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Any other questions? So, Trustee Vito.
Yeah, it's more of a comment. I think $750 is kind of steep for some, Bob Chin's can handle it as a high-risk place, but you have Sushi Gallery or that Mexican seafood place on Dundee there. These guys are operating on razor margins. We just raised the tax levy. We're just going to kill them by 1,000 cuts, I feel. So, that's my take on it.
Well, this is a discussion. Anyone else have concerns about this? Crickets.
Well,
Trustee Lang.
I kind of felt the same way, that it was it seemed like an excessive tax at first. Then I saw the rates, but Trustee Vito brings up a great point. There's a lot of smaller players in a high-risk area. That is there a way that is the inspection as intense for a Bob Chin's as it would be for the sushi place?
Well, you can see in the review of the other municipalities, there are splits. Evanston, for example, has a size split in addition to the risk split. So they have a small high-risk establishment. If it was the consensus of the board, we could look at something like that. But it is possible, I suppose, to split out big and small, even though we're doing the recommendation of high risk, medium risk, low risk could still remain, but it is possible.
Well, and part of the process is that of the fee, is that you're compensating for the time and the nature of the inspection.
Sure.
And so at a larger type establishment, it's going to be a more intense inspection as opposed to a smaller one. It's not, I mean, they're inspecting the same things, but it's not as wide of scope.
That's true.
Correct?
That's true, yes. The largest restaurants require usually more than one person and hours dedicated for the inspection.
Well, if it doesn't delay you too much, I'd like to see maybe a range in that particular case.
So you would like to see a size range factored in? So we'll have two categories. We'll have a large business, small, because you can't have too many, right? So you'll have a large and a small, high, medium, low risk, large, high, medium, low risk, small. And we'll have to come up with some kind of delineation. I don't know if you do that on, it wouldn't be square footage, it would have to be
Well, I'm sorry to make it complicated, but yeah,
We could, just off the top of my head, I think the square footage would probably be a good way to divide the larger restaurants that are also high risk. We could take a look at it, but I think that if you're talking about basically a fourth category, high, medium, low, and then high with a jumbo-sized restaurant, we could certainly take a look at it and figure out what makes sense in terms of a cutoff.
okay. Thank you.
President Horker,
Trustee,
wouldn't it make more sense to base it on seating? Because, I mean, I would think it would rather than square footage. I mean, maybe they got a place for a DJ or something, and they're paying for that for an inspection because it's square footage or whatever it is. I would prefer, if we're going to do it seating. And I agree with Trustee Vito and Lang that it should be done, but based on number of seats rather than square footage.
Mr. Jennings.
There are municipalities who do break it down that way. It's not reflected in the table, but as we looked at the ones that incorporated into their business license structure, there were some that used the seating as the split.
Trustee Vito?
As you have it proposed here, do you have an estimate as what the total revenue would be per year?
Total, I believe, based on the projection of the number of restaurants that are opening for next year, 84,000.
And what's the total cost to do these inspections?
The total cost,
Annually?
in terms of staff time, that I don't know.
Well, it's probably the equivalent of 2 employees.
We have 2 full-time health inspectors?
We don't, which is why we're addressing this. We have 1. We used to have 3. We now have 1.
I think we should figure out what the cost is going to be before we apply a fee to pay for that cost. So it's not surplusing something at the detriment to the people that are paying the bill.
In no way will this be surplusing. I mean, again, we had 3 inspectors. We now have 1. 84,000 doesn't cover even 1. What it does cover is the contract that we intend to sign to have someone come in and, help supplement those inspections. But we agree with that idea, which we were very concerned about when even coming up with a recommendation. Again, I just think it bears repeating that all of the Lake County restaurants are paying $1,200, all of them. And we are one of the only that don't have this fee. So this is not a cash grab. This is really a fee, a use fee. Restaurants have very specific and dedicated uses, and therefore the inspections are very different than your general municipal inspection. So that's why you have the categories as well. The higher the risk, the more intense the inspection, the more time, all of that. So there will be no surplus.
So for clarification, we're looking at directing Mr. Jennings to do a little more research, come up with a high risk, medium risk, low risk, and then large and small scale. Does that sound Questions, Mr., you seem,
I just want
your brow
to be
is
sure
furrowing.
when I look at this, I just want to make sure that I'm looking at the right thing. There was the suggestion of using the seats to make the split between.
That's why I keep asking questions.
So if it's the consensus, I just want to make sure that the consensus is specific to the high risk, or if there's a idea that we should have large and small for the low risk as well. I had understood it to be specific to the high risk, to split out the high risk ones. I just want to make sure that that was what the consensus of the board was.
Well, Mr. Vogel, what do you feel? Trustee Vogel?
Everything.
Everything,
Yeah, all three. High, low, and all three.
so create 6 categories instead of 4.
Right.
May I ask, is that even possible? I mean, 6 categories of seating capacity, and I'm sorry to interrupt, I just want to make sure that we can deliver what we're being asked.
Well, right now we're at 3, high, medium, and low, risk category only, and if the consensus would be to have high, medium, low, but then also divide between large and small restaurants, that's how I would arrive at the 6, correct?
That's how I was looking at it.
Is that what you mean? Okay.
That's what I mean.
Okay. Just figure out the threshold of how many seats equals a large restaurant.
Okay.
We're good with that?
Yes, I think I understand it more clearly. Thank you.
And Mr. Vogel, Trustee Vogel?
Good.
Trustee Papantos?
With what Dave wants, yeah, based on seating and that division.
6 categories. Trustee Vito?
Sure.
Trustee Lang? Great. Trustee Kruger?
I was okay with just addressing the high risk, but if you're going to make it 6, make it 6. I'm just trying to think of a low-risk, small restaurant.
Video gaming.
What is that?
Video gaming cafe.
Gaming cafe?
Baked goods.
But that's still 30 seats. So what constitutes?
No, it's not.
Small.
Oh, less than. All right.
Well, it depends what they assess risk with. Do we need further discussion?
No, I think we understand where we're at.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm in favor of the 6 categories as well.
Mary?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mary. She went 4.
I'm okay. Well, we can go
Okay.
with 6.
Okay.
Next item. Mr. Janik, you have the Capital Improvements Project program for 2019 through 2023.
Thank you. So, yes, so I'm here to go over the CIP. I'm not going to go over every project. You might have read in the memorandum, there's approximately 50 projects that are planned for 2019. We have a great team, a great staff that oversees this program. 2 of them are here tonight, the village engineer and our contract manager. But the CIP includes every public works department, and often it includes other departments as well, CD, fire, and police. But most of these projects they emanate from public works. They take care of our buildings, they take care of our roads. You've seen me up here the last 4 or 5 years. So the topics of the projects don't change that much, although we have been adding some different projects recently. But I'm going to go over some of the ones we've seen every year. You can ask me about any project that's listed in the book, or any questions relative to while I'm going through this. You can interrupt me. In 2018, we spent approximately $9 million of the village's funds. In 2019, we're estimating to spend approximately $17 million. Now, one reason why that jump in funding is because there are a couple of projects that we pushed from 2018 to 2019. We do have in the list that you'll see here reconstruction of a fire station. Whether that takes place this year or 2020, we're hoping it's 19. Some of these projects we have control over, but sometimes we do have to push them from one year to another. This is part of the annual budget process. It's attached to it. It's not done at the same time. This is the way it's been done for numerous years. I think mostly because it's just completely different sort of an animal expenditure-wise than the normal budget. Okay, for 2018, just as an overview, our road improvements, street improvement project, we improved approximately 18,000 linear feet of roadway. We spent $1.4 million. You might remember last year, 2017, we actually borrowed some money from 2018. We had really good prices in 2017. So that's one reason why it's $1.4 million. Last year, we spent about $2 million. But this year, we spent a lot of time in Tahoe. I'm not sure if any of you saw some of these improvements. Tahoe, we did a lot of courts in Tahoe. Next year, we're going to go back and we're going to finish most of the streets in Tahoe. We did overlay in Longtree on one of the major roads there, Longtree Drive. We did work in the industrial area, south industrial area, south of Hintz Road. We did Larkin, Mesner, Peterson, Marquardt. We also did work on Chaddock to the north of Hintz Road. Dundee Road lighting, we accomplished the second phase of the lighting project, which was from the railroad tracks west to the village limit. We're going to, the project isn't completely done yet. There's two more street lights that need to be installed on McHenry Road. Hopefully by this time next year, we will have installed our street light ornaments on certain street lights as well. We have those. We bought those last year, or actually 2 years ago. We're just waiting for the project to be finished. So hopefully by this time next year, we'll have those up, and the street will look very similar. South Wheeling Road drainage improvements. I went over the change order just now relative to that project. That project complicated. Hopefully it's going to reduce the flooding on that roadway by at least 80%. We're hoping that's what's going to happen here. It's an expensive project, but it's one that was brought out as one of the major projects to be accomplished as part of the stormwater improvements to the city. Dundee Road storm sewer extension. This was the large pipe, 72-inch pipe that was extended under Dundee Road just to the west here. That happened earlier this summer. That pipe is going to allow the new development to the north of Dundee Road to drain to that pipe and then over to Heritage Lake. Buffalo Creek regulatory floodplain remapping. We've spent a lot of money so far on this. We still have some money to be spent for 2019. So far, it's estimated that 650 properties will be removed from the floodplain as a result of the remapping.
Excuse me, Director Janik,
Yes.
When do we expect final on the remapping?
I think we're hoping that in June. Hopefully June.
John, if you're going to talk, please. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was just talking to the consultant about a week ago, and the intent is to resubmit to Illinois State Water Survey and IDNR in the next week or so, and I hope that this will be their last go-around of comments addressed. So that being said, then there's a public period to post it, 60 days typically with FEMA for review and stuff. So I would say early summer is what we're expecting.
Great. Thank you.
You may remember that we had the consultant, Burke and Associates, use a different hydraulic modeling for the village that they had to sell to IDNR, and they did accept that modeling, and that's one reason why we are able, or looks like we'll be able to take a lot of properties out of the floodplain, more than we thought. At first we thought maybe 400, 450, but it's increased. And we're not for sure yet, but that's what we're expecting. We're actually hoping maybe it's over 700, but we're looking at 650.
Thank you.
Also, some other projects in 2018, asphalt surface treatment, which we applied last year in Hollywood, North Hollywood subdivision. This year we were down in Avalon, Siena. Very popular. It's a very thick sealant that we're expecting to extend the life of the pavements. We won't have to resurface it as often. We did storm sewer improvements at Bridget and Wayne. I mentioned that earlier when I was asked about the storm sewer monies. We accomplished that.
Mark, can I jump on that one? I know you guys have worked hard on Bridget and East Wayne to solve some of that water problem there, but there's still issues, right?
Absolutely, there's still issues. That's the low area, the low spot in the entire East Dunhurst area. And the pipes that were installed years and years ago for that subdivision were undersized, but they all go to the same place. They go right at that corner, and then it disperses into a larger pipe that goes down along the right of way of or the property of Comet, and it goes down to Wheeling Road. So we are still looking at additional projects in that area, but just the way that Dunhurst was designed, there are no detention basins, so there's nowhere for the water to collect and slowly release as subdivisions are designed now, or they have been designed for the last 15, 20 years. So we're going to have a problem with Dunhurst because there's just no place for the water to go except these smaller pipes. Now, we are looking at enlarging pipes in Dunhurst. We are looking at maybe doing a parallel storm sewer. We just met this week, as a matter of fact, with a couple different consultants relative to improvements in East Dunhurst.
Has there been any consideration for detention in the ComEd right-of-way?
Not in the, well, actually, yes, in the ComEd right-of-way on the east side of Wheeling Road, just south of where, just south of the old Builder's Asphalt property. We have a low-flow stream that goes toward Heritage Park, and right there is a low area, and there has been some consideration on our part to possibly lift Wheeling Road up and then create possibly a detention basin. But we can't put it in the ComEd right away because there are other utilities in there. In particular, there's a Northwest Water Commission large water pipe in that area. So the ComEd right away, at least in the main right away, it's very tough to do. But we're looking at all kinds of opportunities to reduce further the situation over there.
And I know you have, and just, please keep looking, because I know it's an issue over there.
Yeah. We've just been dealt a hand over there that is just hard to fix. We're working as hard as we can to figure it out.
Thank you.
I mean, there are ways to figure it out, but, some cost huge amounts of money. And then some of them are just not possible because of the gradient in the area.
I mean, to protect some of those homes, that are constantly faced with that. I don't know. It seems like we should be able to, we should keep exploring it. That's what we should.
We are. Absolutely. Sanitary sewer evaluation services, we've been doing this for the past several years. This is to protect our sanitary and storm systems from infiltration as well as water that's leaking out of the system. In 2018, we spent 96% of the total budget that was provided to us, and including the change order that was approved tonight, we're approximately 2% over budget for the year. This slide shows where the funding comes from for our projects. There's Capital Projects Fund, which is, generally speaking, is the general fund, monies from the general fund that the village board allows us to spend. We spend money from the motor fuel tax fund. The water and sewer fund has monies that we spend. This is a particular water main expansion, water main relocation. The storm sewer fund, and then we spend money from various TIF funds as well. So I'm going to go through some of the projects for the coming year. This is a typical expenditure every year for various sidewalks that we need to replace in various subdivisions. We do the sidewalk squares themselves, as well as we do, as you can see at the corners, for disabled. Make sure people know when they're getting close to a street. New public sidewalk. This has been up We've been trying to get this project done for the past 3 years. We've been running into problems with IDOT and various approvals that they need to provide us to do this. This is a sidewalk that we're trying to get installed on South Milwaukee Avenue, in particular from River Mill South to Sumac Drive. And it's complicated because we have to cross, we're along Milwaukee Avenue, which is a state route, and we have to cross Hintz Road, which is a county route. And we've had problems. There's gradient problems along Milwaukee Avenue, along some of the driveways themselves. And there's certain requirements that the state has before we can put the sidewalks in. Hopefully, this is the year that we're going to be able to get the approvals from IDOT and install the sidewalk.
The car wash that was just in front of us this evening has proposed a 5-foot sidewalk. Will that fit into this plan?
That is part of the plan, that's correct.
Thank
If
you.
they weren't going to be putting it in, we'd be putting it in. It's great that they'd be putting it in, that would save us some money. Capital projects, this is a Parkway street tree planting, $20,000 for 2019. Now, we used to spend a lot more money on street tree planting. We are going to increase that next year and the years after. One reason why this is so low is that we've been concentrating the last couple of years on removing trees in our right-of-ways. We've been planting a lot of trees, but what we haven't been doing was removing dangerous trees. Trees that are overgrown, trees that have that rot in them. It's just as important for us to be planting trees as to be removing trees that could pose a danger to cars, to passersby, and to houses. We have a lot of huge trees. You might see some of that we've been cutting down, massive diameter trees, and a lot of them have had rot inside. You can see holes in them. So we've been spending a lot of money removing trees. Last couple of years. Next year, we're going to be increasing this amount to $50,000. This is a project for entrance signs. This is a project that's really with, we're working with CD, Community Development on. $385,000 for 2019. Not sure if we're going to be spending all this money in 2019. I'm sure you guys have seen or remember the different design different processes that Andrew's going through with you guys. So we're expecting to do at least some of these signs in 2019.
Mark, if I may, just so the board's aware, we are coming to the end of the whole design phase of this project, and then the signs will be going before the Plan Commission in December. So I will circulate, the design is based on what was discussed at our level. If you recall, it was then given back to staff to go work with, and we bid out actually the design process with a professional sign company with the goal of working with a local manufacturer, which we believe we've accomplished. So we have a final design that is going to go to the Plan Commission in December. So this is happening. And we are also looking at options for adding, although it is not part of this project because it entails all kinds of additional property concerns, an entrance sign on the west side of town on Dundee Road. We're exploring any and all options there to make that happen. But until then, there are 12 signs that the Plan Commission will see in December. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spondelis.
Oh, that's it. Okay. Next one is this is the fire station on Wheeling Road, South Wheeling Road, just south of where our construction is going on with the storm sewer. This is planned to be, I believe, planned to be the building taken down and rebuilt in 2019, including the apron and the garage.
Hey, Mark?
Yes.
What's pushing that one back? Or potentially, is it the work on Wheeling Road that is impeding?
No, it's strictly a situation where the fire department needs to get their designs done, get their contractor. I believe they've been doing a design build. We've done this before with various buildings. Sometimes it gets complicated as relative to what they need, where it's placed, relative to grading, relative to the roadway itself.
Building a new building?
Yes.
And then raising the old one?
I believe that's what they're going to do, is
keep the existing building.
Because otherwise, where would the guys go?
Yeah.
Right?
And
So,
then build one next door, and then tear this down.
sounds good.
And funding isn't available until January 1st. So come
Right.
January 1st, you'll be seeing and hearing a lot about this project.
Great.
But we've done everything we can up until now. Now we just have to wait for the new budget year.
Sounds good. Thanks.
We're going to continue with the asphalt surface treatment project program that we've been doing for the last 2 years. We're going to be finishing up down at Avalon and then other locations that we will be determining in 2019. I've gone down to Avalon. We did everything in Avalon except for 2 streets. We just ran out of money. They're very, very, very happy down there. I think people in Hollywood are happy. This is a situation where it's really very thick blacktop sealant. It's not always going to stay black. What the idea is that the sealant, the thick sealant will impregnate the existing pavement and deny water from getting it, underneath the pavement and buckling it. So far, we believe it's been working. Street improvement program for 2019. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to be finishing Tahoe Village, and then we're going to move on to Malibu, streets in Malibu, Lexington Commons, and then Chelsea Cove. Depends how much money, how the bids come in, and how much we're going to get done. But this is a situation where I don't believe we're going to be doing any reconstruction. It'll be resurfacing, grind and resurfacing, along with repairing curb, replacing curb where we need to. For 2020, hopefully we'll be moving on to Eastwood Trails and then Kingsport Commons. Water and Sewer Fund, we have a new water main plan for Foster Avenue, the entire length of Foster, and then also Milwaukee Drive and Century Drive. We do this every 2 years. Typically, we replace the existing cast iron or ductile pipe with plastic pipe. You'll be glad to hear that Wheeling, although I haven't compared to every municipality, but we do have a very low rate of water main break. You might have seen us working last week or 2 weekends ago at Dundee and McHenry. But these days we have we have below 20 breaks a year, around 15. Some municipalities near us have over 100, or even over 200. Our ability to spend monies to replace water main have done vast change to our budget, particularly with overtime for our guys. This lead line service replacement. In 2019, we're planning to spend approximately $135,000 on consultants. The village has very few lead lines. I'm sure you've read about this in the newspapers recently. It's really been, there's been a lot of articles about lead lines. We have very few. So what we're going to do in 2019 is confirm the number that we have through a consultant, and also check for, make a plan for our lead service lines, and then go out and try to find grant money. Right now there is grant money to replace service lines. I would then come back to you, to the board, and ask for your consideration whether or not how you might want to replace them, if at all. Right now, our situation is perfectly fine relative to lead lines. This is a situation we're trying to get ahead of, possibly helping to replace lead lines by going with a consultant and just confirming what we believe is out there.
Mark, for testing of water, we do that annually, and our results are always well below limits.
So far, they've been below limits. And we typically always do it whenever there's a water main replacement. We have to do it every 5 years, but then when there's a water main replacement, we do test in the area that we're replacing the water mains.
Thank you.
These tests, whose pipes are these?
They're just examples of lead pipes.
No.
They are. We do not, correct me if I'm wrong, we do not have any municipally owned public water service pipes that have lead in them.
Not that we know.
We're talking about service lines.
Ah, okay. That's what I'm concerned about. Thank you. I'll go back to sleep now.
This industrial lane, I've talked to you about this improvement over the last couple of years. It looks like in 2019, we are going to be able to get this accomplished. We have our drawings are prepared, and we're preparing to go out for bid for this project, hopefully in December, and hopefully this will be starting in, say, March or April, May. The entire length of Industrial Drive is proposed for resurfacing, as well as adding curb to both sides. Now the curb is going to be a ribbon curb. It's not going to be a raised curb due to the grading out there. But we will have a curb on both sides. And then on the north side of the road, we're going to have a sidewalk attached to that curb. So it'll be blacktop pavement, curbing, the ribbon curb, which is approximately 18 inches wide, and then a sidewalk adjacent to that.
Excuse me, Mark, for those of us who aren't construction people, it's a ribbon curb that kind of...
No, it's the ribbon curb is flat.
It's just flat?
Yeah, it'll drain the water to the sidewalk, and the sidewalk will drain onto grass. Right now, I'm sure you've been down there, it's all gravel. So what this is going to look like afterwards is we're going to have the pavement, the concrete curb, sidewalk, and then grass with a small swale. And then under that swale will be drainage pipe. So we're going to take all the drainage, which is above ground right now, and put it below ground.
Thank you.
We're also going to be putting water main and sewer pipe in the roadway. So it's going to make a change, a huge change out here. The driveways aren't going to be as wide as you see them today. We're going to provide driveways for each business, one or two driveways, depending on what the building configuration looks like. And we will be providing the property owners with these plans before, after we go out for bid and find out what the cost is, and come back and make sure this is it's close to or below the $1.8 million.
Are these properties on septic right now?
Most of them are, yes. Actually, they all are.
Thank you.
Yeah. Diversionary channel bridge and roadway. This project has started. Some of you might have seen this. There's some construction equipment at the very north end of Wolf Court. This is the bridge that's going across the diversionary channel and will connect to Wolf Court as well as to an easement that we now have that crosses the Ram property to and from Milwaukee Avenue. It's a bridge and intersection along with some improvements to Wolf Court. The excavation has not started yet. They have located the utilities out there, and they are preparing to start excavation on one of the footings. So as I mentioned, the 2019 budget is approximately $17 million, over 50 different projects. We're requesting approval of the plan. This is a 5-year plan, 2019 through 2023. If you have any questions for us, and just so you know, our crew, Public Works, the rest of the departments take very seriously the monies that you provide us to spend, and we're extremely personal to us relative to expenditures.
Any other questions from the board?
Nice job, Mark.
Well done.
Thank you, Mr. Janik.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How does this get approved then? What are we doing?
It will come before you on the 3rd, Director Monchain. Is it the 3rd or the 17th for CIP?
CIP, I believe, is on the 17th, along with the budget document.
Thank you. Thank you. No other questions from the board? We have official communications. Clerk Simpson, you have something.
A reminder that petition filing period for the April 2nd, 2019 consolidated election begins Monday, December 10th at 7 a.m. and ends Monday, December 17th at 5 p.m. Petitions can be filed here at Village Hall, 2 Community Boulevard on the 2nd floor administration. Also, a reminder that Lollipop Lane starts Saturday, December 1st, and runs through Sunday, December 9th at Chamber Park at 131 North Wolf Road. The hours are Saturday and Sunday, 2 to 5 p.m., Monday and Friday, 6 to 8 p.m. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Trustee Vogel, then Trustee Santos.
Just a general question, and I should have brought this up earlier. On the health permit fees that we discussed, what about food manufacturing? How does that fit into this picture?
Food manufacturers are not inspected by the village. They're
Strictly state?
state, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Vogel. Trustee Papantos, then Trustee Kruger.
Thank you. I just want to shout out to staff, Public Works in particular, and our support staff. Lights Around Wheeling was another success. The town looks beautiful. I don't think anybody can argue with that. The weather cooperated, but I know the amount of work that everybody puts in to get there, and it was well worthwhile. And also, President Stein from the Park District is here this evening. It was really a very wonderful showing on Sunday for the Park District annual Thanksgiving dinner. I didn't see anybody complaining. Everybody left there with a smile on their face. The Holmes Middle School band, or jazz band, I believe, these kids should go on tour. Really great, but thank you for bringing the community together. I can't say enough about that. This weekend in the paper, there was an article about a child from Pingree Grove who is desperate for a bone marrow transplant. Anybody watching this, if you are not on the registry, in my opinion, there is no excuse why you are not. It is a simple test. You take a swab inside your cheek, okay? You are on the registry. If by chance you are a match for somebody, the small amount of pain that, from the donation process to extract the marrow is nothing compared to saving somebody's life. I have a relative who will be receiving a bone marrow transplant this week, and it is a non-relative transplant. She relied on finding a match through the registry. This child is Hispanic. It is a fact that more than likely the match will come from somebody of the same ethnicity. Please get out there and get on the registry. You can save somebody's life, and it is really meaningful, and it does work. And with that, have a wonderful Thanksgiving, everybody. I hope we don't all eat too much, but I'm started Sunday, and I think I'll just continue through the week. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Trustee Kruger.
Thanks. I too enjoyed myself at Lights Around Wheeling and want to thank staff, all the staff that, everything that you guys put into it. It was really it's joyous to see everybody and then to just drive through it every single day when it's now getting dark at 4 o'clock. It really is very festive. I also want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving and a quick shout out to Kathy and Cindy from Whippletree. You know who you are. We met at the Tarkington Family Night back in September, and I've been promising to mention you guys, and I just did it. So happy Thanksgiving. That's it.
Thank you, Trustee Kruger. You have before you the bills for November 1st through November 14th of 2018. I need a motion for their approval.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Vogel.
Second.
Second, Trustee Kruger. Roll call. Clerk Simpson.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. We have no executive session this evening, so I would be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Kruger. Second.
Second.
Trustee Papantos. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming. Meeting adjourned.